serving 6 months with the first Cav, and going through a lot of stuff, a lot of flying around and landing in LZs and going through continued combat fire missions, etc. I was assigned to the 25th Infantry, and that kind of switched back to convoys, convoying and deuce and a halves and stuff like that, pulling the artillery pieces, which was 105s. So in doing that, I guess you could say I was becoming a veteran. I've been over there a while by now. And so we would travel in these convoys and we'd go through little jungles, little villages. And you'd see all these little kids and they'd run up to you, you were a big deal because they knew, the little kids knew the GIs had like sea rations, they had soap, they had candy especially, and they had all these goodies for them. So they'd be screaming and we just had so much fun and we'd throw it to them, throw them all kinds of sea rations of food and stuff. And there'd be little dogs barking and running around. It was kind of nice to be able to do that rather than being in the middle of the jungle and everything's the same. You unload rounds of artillery. That was a hard physical work. Chinooks would come in and with a big net with just tons of ammo. They'd drop it and we'd go out for hours having to break into these ammo boxes and pull them out and stack them and separate the fuses and all this kind of stuff. So it was a good, fun getaway to see these kids and actually get to see parts of Vietnam, and how these people lived and all this kind of stuff. And people always ask me, where'd you get drugs to become a drug addict over there? Well, this was one of the ways. We'd go through these villages, and I did have young men, 12 years old, 10 years old, that young, running up, saying, GI, I go get you, marijuana, you give me money, or you trade me for soap or whatever. So we always had access to drugs, and there was, in all these companies I was in, there was tons of guys that were heavily addicted to drugs. And they always had drugs. And they always wanted to do drugs with everybody else, so they'd always share it. So if you didn't have drugs, they'd make sure we did. Because a lot of these guys, they'd get money from home and they'd have ways to buy the drugs. Like you could get heroin for $5 in this little vial over there. And here in the States, it would cost like $350 for that much heroin. Well, that's how a lot of them guys became addicted. It was dirt cheap. I know personally a lot of guys that stayed over there, deserted, stayed over there, and disappeared because they were so addicted to drugs and they knew if they came back home, they wouldn't be able to afford them or whatever. These guys obviously had issues before they even got to Vietnam. So, they were gone. They were addicted big time. So anyway, we started convoying all over to different places in the jungle because our whole mission was fire support, to have fire support for the infantry. And so we traveled, and when we'd travel, it'd be like 140 degrees, like I mentioned in prior episodes. And we would be so hot and so tired, and we would travel like all day long, 8-10 hours a day. We'd get to where we were going. We would have to set up concertina wire, claymore mines, set up all the guns, do all this tons of work, fill sandbags, just shovel all day long in the heat. And I can remember when we do that, sometimes we hear big jets come over. And we look up and we look up to see that the big jet we were going to take home was called a Freedom Bird. And we looked to see if it was a Freedom Bird or a Death Bird. The other bird was black, and that was carrying home the dead GIs. And I remember it always would get really quiet, and we would just, be meditating. Man, I wonder which one I'm going on, man. And which leads me to, I want to thank all the veterans for their service, men and women. But I've heard for years that the people that weren't in the GIs or whatever Marines, whatever, that weren't in combat like I was. That kind of combat, I mean, in the mix of it, where you saw a lot of stuff. You know, they were like, they worked in the rear in base camps and stuff, and they weren't really honored. But what people don't understand is when you're 18 years old, you know, before I went to Vietnam, I watched TV and the news, and I saw people getting killed and all this. And at our age, we were scared, you know, because there was the draft then. Not everybody volunteered. Officers did. I did because my best friend got killed over there. So I said, well, I'm going to go because he got killed. So I'm going to go serve and kill them because they killed them, type of thing. But where was I? I lose my train of thought sometimes. Just, that's a 100% rating I have. But anyway, what I was going to say is when you hit that country, I believe what came into a lot of GIs or onto their mental mind or however you want to word it was a spirit of fear, and which followed us back home, which I'll talk about down the road in another episode. But even in Vietnam, I don't care where you were, what your MOS was, whether you were worked in the base camp as a cook, a clerk, engineer, whatever you did, and you weren't in the mix of combat, you could be killed. Any time you could be killed. And that was always in an 18-year-old's mind, because you could get killed from rockets, incoming, mortars, surprise ground attacks in base camps. That didn't happen that often because all the firepower you would have to ward it off, but it was possible. And I'm sure it did happen a few times. But these young men walking around, a mortar could land on their heads, which I saw happen, and rockets. I saw a rocket and mortars go through sandbags that thick with steel under them and penetrate through that little living space and kill guys. So you can get killed anywhere in Vietnam. That's why they call it combat pay. You're in combat. They wouldn't pay you combat pay if you weren't in danger over there. So at any time, anyone in Vietnam could get killed. So I respect anybody that's been to Vietnam. If I was out in the bush and we got a ground attack, which is how my best friend got killed, he was in an artillery unit just like me. Matter of fact, I think it was the same first cav, I think. They got overran and he got killed. And so at any time, anywhere, you always had that in the back of your mind, you could be killed. So what I was going to say is when you're out there in combat and I'm fighting next to my buddy, by the way, it doesn't matter whether it was black or Mexican or Chinese or what, we had each other's back. There wasn't any color over there. And, you know, he didn't care what color I was if I was saving his life, right? So we didn't have race problems in that way in combat. They might have been base camps in Vietnam, because I remember at that time the Black Panther movement was going and there were groups of black guys that would hang out and the white people, whatever, but not out in the bush. We had each other's back. But I wanted to say that if I'm out there and we have a ground attack or whatever, the guy that gets hit next to me, he was no braver than I was or anybody else in the complex. I was talking to my wife about this the other day, the thing all about medals, you know, whatever. You know, if you want to honor us, that's fine. I refused a Purple Heart because we were having a ground attack. I got injured and it was ridiculous. I said, I don't want a Purple Heart. Back then, that wasn't what we were about. What we were about is we want to get home alive. I'm fighting for my brother. I didn't know anything about politics. All I knew is these people are going to try to kill us. And I got to know this guy, so I would die for him and he would die for me. And so the thing about, blah, blah, blah. And what I was telling my wife is, if this guy gets shot and I didn't, how'd that make him braver? We were in the same place, same ground attack coming to kill us. He just happened to get hit and I didn't. And so that guy next to me understands that. You know, you received because the Army wants to honor you, you know. So what are you going to do? Say, you know, screw you, I don't want that. But my point is everybody over there was brave and they were fighting for each other. And because you get hit and the other guy doesn't make you any more heroic or braver than the guy next to you. And the guys that got hit know that. They get it. But I just want to say that I respect all Vietnam vets, Afghanistan vets, whatever. So anyway, on with the story. I just kind of want to get that in there because it's been bothering me. And I thought people should know how I feel about what we went through. And so anyway, I'm going through things now. I'm with the 25th Infantry. And I can remember meeting these infantry guys. We'd set up in an LZ. And the infantry guys would either hump out from there. It's called hump out. Walk out into the jungle, get their orders, and they'd go out and seek and destroy or whatever dropped into the jungle. And they do their thing for a week or 2 or 3 days or whatever. And then they'd come back to our LZ for a rest. That's where they'd come back, you know, like a timeout. They'd be open, probably up for a couple days at a time, seeking out Vietnamese to kill them. And so they kind of come back where we were in our LZ to take a break. Well, a lot of them guys were into drugs just like we were. And so they'd come back in. This was like their place to come and get stoned. They felt relaxed there because they really didn't have a job where we were. We took care of our own business and they were coming in there to rest. But anyway, I met these guys and befriended these guys, 2 or 3 guys. And they got a mission call. And we were all, you know, shooting a bull like they were sitting right here. One's name might have been David or Jim or whatever. You know, it's been 50 years. I don't remember their names. Dude, where you going? Oh, we have a mission. We got to go. So they would take off in the Cobra or the Slick or whatever and be taken out into the jungle and dropped in. And you never knew for how long. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a few hours, depending on what the mission was. So these guys left that this one day. I can't remember whether it was night or day. It was probably night. Probably a secret type thing. I don't even know. But anyway, they went off. And I asked a friend of mine, what happened to blah, blah, blah? They're not back yet? No, not back yet. So, you know, a few hours went by, whatever. And we get word from communication they got killed. And I was like, it's like if I was at a bar here talking to somebody, they left and whatever, word so-and-so, oh, they got killed. They're gone, dead. Stuff like that at 18 years old was really hard to understand and cope with. So that's how I ended up on major drugs. And so stuff like that would happen. Ongoing ground attacks, seven guys, we call it gooks killed in the wire. They would try to ground attack and we'd kill them. And it was like suicide missions for some of them. You know, they didn't have food. They were hardcore in the jungle trying to survive. And I believe they finally said, screw this, and just came and tried to kill as many of us as they could. And they end up in the wire, they're dead. Not big companies attacking ground attack. I'm talking about a few here, a few there. And that kind of thing went on quite a bit, and a lot of incoming, which we call harassment. They would harass us with a few mortars here, and then they'd run. They'd hit and they'd run because they didn't want to fight us. They didn't have the firepower. So they'd pop a few rounds in just to harass us, and they'd go. And that fear was always there. You could get killed any day, any time. And so, but this one day, we would travel, like I said, 8 to 10 hours a day. And we'd set everything up, and it was butt-busting work in that heat. And then you'd go to sleep, and it'd say, march order. What the frick's march order mean? It means tear everything down. We're moving again. And you slept like about an hour and did all that work setting up for like a week or two, however long you're going to be there. Oh, dude, we finally get to chill out for a week or two. And they'd say march order. And we'd have to break down every sandbag, cut them open, empty them out, find every piece of M16 round laying around, anything that they might get and use for booby traps. We had to police the whole area and be ready to take off as fast as we could. And we'd go off to another spot, set up march order. I mean, you don't know frustration and exhaustion. We were so tired going through that freaking hot jungle. And like I said, the water was scalding hot. So finally, we get to a place and we get to set up. Probably going to be there for 2 or 3 weeks. And we used to, being in artillery, when we take these rounds out and get them ready in case we got a ground attack, we would make what we call little hooches out of them. You would stack these ammo boxes up like that, and then you'd put this, if anybody knows what this stuff was called, it was driving me crazy. I was telling my wife there's this metal that we put across for the roof and then put sandbags on it so mortars couldn't penetrate through it. And we would sleep. This would be our little hooch in there. And we'd make beds out of these little ammo boxes and we'd put like empty sandbags to try to make it softer. And then when the monsoons would come and just sweep us, we'd wake up floating down the way. It was all weird. But anyway, we set up in this one place with the 25th Infantry. And we'd been there for a week or two, whatever. And I can remember we got a fire mission. And I can't remember, see, it's been so long whether it was night or day. I just can't remember 50 years ago. We got this mission, and I remember it was a long mission, a lot of work, a lot of firing of a lot of rounds, maybe 100, a lot of rounds. And you could fire a lot of rounds really fast. And so sometimes they'd come back and tell us how many KIAs we got. We were firing support for the infantry. And they'd tell us, I got 20 KIAs, good job, guys. You saved the infantry. But anyway, on this particular time, they came back, and I can remember probably one of the darkest days in Vietnam. And they told us, hey, you guys got 9 KIAs. Problem is, they were ours. Friendly fire, we killed 9 of our own guys. But it wasn't on us. The FO, field observer for the infantry, was walking around town, called in fire support. They were in a firefight. And they called in that fire support, and he called it in too far and killed 9 of our guys. And there was like total quiet. I mean, nobody said one word. And they made sure, the CO, the captain made sure to say, don't you guys go there, this wasn't on you. That FO called it in right on top of them. Said, nothing you did. Because they can go and check what deflection, it's called deflection quadrant, all these things you set up, what kind of round we were fired during the whole mission. All that stuff is documented. And so it wasn't on us. This was a FO that's going to have to live with that. I don't know if he got killed, called in on himself. Probably did. But anyway, that was like the worst day of Vietnam in my life. I don't know about the other guys. But anyway, that was horrible. And that kind of thing, I mean, that kind of orders continued. We would travel. We'd set up LZs. We'd do fire missions for infantry. That's what you did. You just kept fighting through the war. Well, there were downtimes. I know people are thinking, well, what you do in your downtime besides get loaded? Well, I had a real good friend named Joey from New York, and he was a Golden Gloves boxer. And I knew how to street fight from the streets back in the world, but this guy was a boxer. And he was good. He was like Golden Gloves, like I said. He was like a middleweight, and I would be like a junior welterweight. My weight was like 135, 140. He was like 160, I don't know, 5'11". That dude taught me to box and beat my brains out. But I learned a lot about boxing from Joey. So we do stuff like that, and you know, some guys would play cards. You just do your time to make it go by. Well, anyway, that went on, and then we kept traveling, kept fighting, blah, blah, blah. And then what we called short time calendar came in. How much time I had left in the military. I mean, in Vietnam. I extended to 14 months. Most GIs were given 12 months, 1 year, and they came home. But you had an option to extend 2 more months to get out of the military early. So I didn't want to come back to the United States and play war games after being in a real war. So I decided I'm going to stay in 2 more months. Could have cost me my life, but I'm not going home and still be in the Army. I just didn't want to do that. Wasn't an option. So I did what they call extended for 2 more months. I was in 14 months. And I got orders for R&R. Finally. It was, God, I got R&R late. I'd been over a long time before. Most guys got it like 9 months. And so, anyway, I decided that I'm going to do something you're not supposed to do. What's that? I'm going home. Most guys went to Australia, Sydney. What's the other one? I don't know. Anyway, they went to Australia because it was a hot place for R&R for GIs. Or they went to Bangkok, Thailand. No interest in either one of them. I wanted to go home. I was homesick. I'd been over, that's another thing I remember before I go there. I got a letter. Getting a letter in Vietnam was gold. I mean, your whole day went. Somebody cares. I mean, I have 7 brothers and sisters, and they're probably going to be watching this. And I read a letter that I hadn't seen in 50 years the other day, and it was telling them all off. Can anybody take 5 minutes to write me a letter? I remember reading that. So to get a letter was really something for me because I didn't get a lot. But I got one from my girlfriend. Oh, my God, I thought I died and went to heaven. But I was scared of what I might hear because we kind of broke up before I came over on purpose. I said, I might get killed and I don't want you waiting for me. You go do what you want to do. And so I get a letter from her, and boy, I look around, went and found me a private foxhole, jumped down. I was so excited, lit a joint, getting ready to read the most awesome letter of my life after being in war for whatever it was. So I'm reading, and it said, blah, 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 blah. I went to this party, blah, blah, blah. She was big time into drugs. I was always a drinker, but she was into drugs. Went to this party, and it was a one-night deal. And these guys, I don't know if it's true to this day. How do I know? These guys raped me, and I ended up pregnant. She said, I'm pregnant with someone else's baby, right? That was worse than a dear John. I mean, she's pregnant from some guys that raped her. Of course, I'm sitting with an M16. I was going to kill every one of them. When I got home, of course, she was going to tell me who they were, and they're done. I'm going to go take them out. Because, oh, man, that was hard. That was a hard day. But there was light in the letter. She said, if you want to, if you think about it, I'd still like to see you when you come back. We can still get back together, blah, blah, blah. I was naive. She wanted me to raise this baby from somebody else. Well, I was too immature. I couldn't take care of me, let alone that situation. So oh, Jesus couldn't get any worse than this. My friend says, I'm going to shoot myself in the leg. I said, what? Shoot yourself in the leg. I'm trying to think of his name. I can see his face right now. He's from Oklahoma. I said, I'm going home. I'm shooting myself in the leg. Why? What are you talking about, dude? My girlfriend I just got a Dear John. That's it. I'm not staying here nor there. I'm going to shoot myself. Shut the frick up. I said, dude, do you know how many women there are back there in the world? We called America the world. The vets call it the world. I'm going back to the world. 30 more days. But anyway, dude, you ain't going to do that. Slap him upside the head. Smoke some dope. Forget about that chick. If she's going to be like that now, she'll be like that when you get home. So you don't want her anyway. So anyway, Don was his name. Oh, Don. Big Don from Oklahoma. Great big guy. So anyway, Don got over it, and we went on, and I got over it. We all cried and did what you do when you're 18. Oh, I lost my girlfriend. Smoked some dope. We all right. So anyway, all that went on, but I got orders for R&R finally. I said, damn, I'm going to go home. So I wrote my brother, my oldest brother I used to party with, said, dude, pick me up in Hawaii, in Honolulu, and we'll fly home. You know, fly home. I'm not going to stay there. We'll fly home. You supposed to do that? No, because he was in the National Guard. You know, you can't come home if you're in the Army, you know, on R&R. No one will ever know unless you tell them. So he met me at the airport, Honolulu. He had a fifth of whiskey, Jack Daniels, that big. And I can remember he came screaming through the airport, because he's not a quiet guy anyway. He's screaming, and I'm looking, dang, that dude, he's got a fifth of booze with him. And he cracks it, and we chugged about half that bottle right there in the airport. And I ended up coming home. And the party was on. I think you get 10 days or something like that, R&R. So we're partying, and I'm thinking, I ain't going back there. I'm home, I'm in the States. I'm not going back. But then it took me about a minute. I said, I can't leave my buddies over there. In no way. I can desert. I got to go back for them. I'm not leaving them, you know, to fight this thing themselves. So the big problem was I got orders for the DMZ. Demilitarized Zone, North Vietnam. That was not good news. That's like getting orders to Cambodia. That's a dangerous friggin' place to be. You're like, I don't know, 20 miles from the border of North Vietnam. So I get orders to go there when I get back from R&R. So we did R&R, had a great party time, got to see my mom, blah, 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 which made the whole thing even worse, because now I got to go back to war again. That was a trip. So, oh my God, here it goes all over again. And so I fly to Hawaii, fly back to Saigon, because I'd be waiting there to go ship me out to the DMZ. And so I'm going there, and they have an actual movie theater there in Saigon. It's like a city, you know, normal city, except in Vietnam. In fact, their capital, I don't know, maybe. But anyway, we're in this movie watching 101 Odyssey or whatever that weird drug show was back then. So all stoned out of our mind watching 101 Odyssey, whatever that movie was. And we get incoming. Frickin' incoming. Sirens went off. We dive under the theater seats and stoned out of our mind. And I look at this whining freaking kid from somewhere. I don't want to die. I don't want to shut the frick up. Nobody gonna die here. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. I said, I'm gonna punch you right in the freaking mouth if you don't shut up. And there were rockets coming in, mortars. I mean, big time harassment into Saigon, which happened quite a bit. And so finally got that kid to shut up. But honesty, I said, oh God. I didn't even know him then. But I said, oh God, don't let me die in a freaking theater underneath a seat like a freaking coward after all this crap I've been through. I don't want to die in this theater, Lord. So obviously the incoming stopped. And then I was shipped out in a convoy, again, the deuce and a half trucks, to my next unit, which was on top of a mountain in the middle of a jungle. It was high, high up on a mountain. And so, obviously, it was an artillery unit. But in this artillery unit, it wasn't 105s. It was big 155s. I have pictures of it. SPs, they were called. And them rounds weighed like 155 pounds. They had to be lifted with a hydraulic lift to load the guns. And so I'm thinking, damn, I'm on top of a mountain now, and I only have 40 days left in Nam. So I thought, oh, God, let me see. This should be cool. I might make it home. 40 days on top of a mountain. Cool. So I'm on this mountain, I'm chilling, I'm meeting all these guys. Brother Mag, heroin addict, black dude, all these cool dudes, you know, I'm kind of buddying up with all the druggies. And all we're doing is getting stoned. I don't have much time left, 40 days. And I'm pulling guard. We have to pull guard. Down this mountain, you're all by yourself in bunkers, pulling guard. Trip wires, claymore mines, concertina wire. Gooks have to come through all that to get to you, to get up to where the artillery battery was. And it's called a parapet where these guns set in. And so I notice I'm 2 guys in one bunker pulling the guard. And they have starlight scopes so you can see at night. If they're coming up, you can see them. Vietnamese coming. And so I noticed this kid has cherry clothes on. Cherry boy clothes, they're called. Green. Rookie, right from home. Just got to Vietnam. And I'm thinking, oh, hell no. And I grabbed that kid. I said, you listen to me. Look, his eyes got real big. I said, I will shoot you myself if you fall asleep. I will shoot you. You are brand new in this freaking country. And I've been through some stuff here, and I'm going home in like 40 days. You better be awake. That freaking kid in the middle of the night, he was sound asleep. When I went over to grab him to get him to, it was his shift. He took his shift. I went to sleep, and he fell asleep on his shift. And I woke up and saw him and grabbed that kid, went to the captain the next day, the CO. And I said, dude, listen, I got 40 days left in this freaking asshole. Don't want to cuss too much. Grandkids might watch us. And I can't deal with that. That kid fell asleep out there in that bunker. He said, you know what? You know what, Private? No, I was a PFC. You know what, PFC? I've been looking at your records and your mission over here, however you want to word it. Your time over, you've been through some shit. A CO said that to me. And he goes, you've been pretty decorated here. He said, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I don't blame you one bit. I'm pulling you off of all guard duty for the remainder of your time, and I'm going to make you the head of garbage run. So I got to pick up the garbage on that mountain for the next 40 days. An incoming round came in before I got there to this unit. It was called the 1st of the 82nd Airborne. And hit a direct hit in the middle of what they call the parapet, where you fire the barrel, and killed 7 guys. 7 GIs right in the parapet I was now in and working in until I went home. So I had just missed that. That just happened. And I was like, from sun up, sundown, man, I was stoned. I had my little short timer's calendar. I was marking it down every day. And it seemed like that 40 days it seemed like that took as long as my whole tour, them 40 days. Please, God, don't let no freaking rockets land on my head here. Let me make it. And that thing kept going down and down and down and down. Holy moly, I got a week left. And I'm thinking, I'm going to, when they convoy me in, I'm going to have so many freaking frags on me. It's, nobody killing me. I'm going to make it out of here. That's how you feel. And so finally, my time's up. I made it. And they're going to convoy us in. So we convoyed off of that mountain. It was my day to go home. And they took us to Cameron Bay. It's right on the ocean. Beautiful place. To process us out, to go home. And I can remember you do what they, you have to do all that processing stuff. And then they take you to the Freedom Bird, where you're coming home on. And I can remember to this day getting on that thing. Didn't know anybody. Because, I was going home by myself out of this unit. Bunch of GIs on there. Everybody screaming. I mean, they destroyed them planes with spray can, with crayons and stuff. F the Army. And they expected it. They did it to all the planes. All these GIs writing all over the ceilings. They had stewardess on there. Everybody's whistling at the stewardess. And, GIs going crazy. F the Army, I'm going home and all this kind of stuff. Just screaming. So they're getting ready to go down the runway, I remember. Dead silence, quiet. It was like the movie Castaway, when he pulled away and he went through all that stuff for 7 years and he got really quiet because he was leaving it and looking back at the island. That's how this was. People were so, mental, thinking, I can't believe I'm going home. And so it got really quiet. And then when we knew, another reason it got quiet is we knew we had to get to a certain elevation where we were at an RPG range and anti-aircraft range. So they're going to shoot you out of the air. And so I can remember lifting. And when we got out of range and we knew we were on the way home, after probably 20 minutes of silence, that whole plane freaking erupted. Screaming as loud as every GI could scream, that we made it, we were alive, and we got to go home. And so we travel, I think it's 18 hours, I think. You stop in Guam for gas, Hawaii, and then we went to Fort Lewis, Washington. And it's true, when we landed, that air was the freshest. Remember, Vietnam didn't have any latrines. It smelled like SHIT the whole time. So we landed in Seattle, where it's nice and cool and cold, and the air was, oh my God. We did. We kissed the ground, like everybody talks about. And then something happened that will continue with the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Hey there, Dennis and I are on the road again, and we're really excited about episode 3. It was a bit of a tough go, but lots of good things happening there. We wanted to shout out about Mission 22. They're an organization that is helping prevent veteran suicide. They have all kinds of services, and we're actually going to be starting a program they hooked us up for free for veterans with PTSD that's called the Amer Wellness Program. Like many of you, our world is far from perfect yet. Dennis still screams at night and goes through trauma and startling and things after the 14 months in jungle. So we wanted to give a shout out for Mission 22. Check their video, check their link, and let us know what you think of episode 3. Huh?